Hello and welcome to another episode of Neptune Novelties, where we talk about books and literature, especially romance. But if you're into nonfiction, we also have a couple episodes of those. So stick around and see what we got for you today. And we would also love to hear from you, perhaps what you thought of the books that we talked about, or if you have any other suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you are an author, you can reach out to us by email. So, guess what kind of a romance we got for you today? I wish we had a drum roll right now. Today, we're gonna talk about, and this one is for all of the people who love to read about guys and gears and, well, the aggressive and yet fun sport of hockey. The book we chose for you today is called Hat Trick by Chelsea Curto, which is the fourth book of her series DC Stars. And so far, I'm not like the kind of aggressive die-hard fan of hockey, although I do watch very, very little amount, especially if I watch, my number one choice is always New Jersey Devils and Seattle Kraken. And I also like Minnesota's team, so yeah. Like I said, I might not watch every single game, but I pretty much have read a lot of hockey romance. Now let's get into the book. So, the book description is the story between Riley Mitchell and their trainer, actually. So, Riley Mitchell has everything you could ever have. He's a back to back Stanley Cup champion, and he has great friends, a fun life, and he's living out his dream of playing hockey in the NHL. Except one night, everything changes. After a car accident, unfortunately, he loses his leg and he struggles with his identity. Who is he away from the ice? And how is he supposed to live without the support and the sport that means everything to him? Enters Lexi Armstrong, the DC Stars athletic trainer assigned to Riley's rehabilitation. She's independent, proudly single, and a sarcastic ray of sunshine, and she's determined to help Riley feel better, not just physically, but mentally too. And with the Friends with Benefits arrangement, they fall into this new storyline, which was definitely not part of the, you know, getting back to him old self plan, and it was supposed to be one night. But when just once turns into something much deeper, they have a decision to make. Do they fight their feelings and keep things purely physical, or can they pull off a hat trick and find something that lasts forever? Hat Trick is a spicy friends to lovers sport romance with professional athletes, friends with benefits, injury rehabilitation. He falls her first and hard, and a guaranteed happily ever after, because if you don't know, that's the only kind of books I read. However, please check content warning, as some material might be sensitive to some readers. To say the least, I was a little excited about reading this book because I haven't read a hockey romance in a while. So when I picked up this book, I was kind of scared because, you know, I was really hoping that this was going to be good, but I think that's the case with every single book that I pick up because I just love reading and I don't like leaving books half read. Although you should do that if you feel like the book is just not your type, because if you don't, then actually cause more problems by hurting your mentality and psychology, and you will lose your love for a hobby that you like. Should this be one of the first books that you read when you want to read hockey romance? I do think it is a good start. However, this is a little this book is a little further away from the cliches because, usually in hockey romance you see all of these like confident and sarcastic and cocky players. But that's not the case with Riley. Riley is one of those sweet and calm, and of course he's handsome because all of the main male characters are, but he doesn't have that bad boy energy, which is very, very refreshing as someone who doesn't like bad boys. So I absolutely loved Riley. He is respectful, but like I said, he is different from the common hockey players you will read or even hear about in the news. Now, talking about Lexi, the main female character, she is, well, not my favorite character. And it wasn't like I didn't like her at all, but I think I mostly tolerated her because I wanted to see how the story goes and what happens to Riley. But I think the author focused really way too much on trying to make Lexi this anti men personality and this hyper independent woman, which in general is, of course, a good thing. But I don't think the gender really matters. I think as an adult, you should be able to be independent and feel good about being on your own and being strong. However, when this mindset enters the chat with these romance books, I haven't really seen any author that doesn't take it way too far, which makes the main female character lose her sense of softness and honestly femininity, because the entire book you cannot find one chapter where Lexi is not trying to be a hyper independent woman. And, if she hates men so much, then, why is she working with them? And why is she in a relationship with one? That is something I think a lot of authors should pay attention to because if they take it too far, it just feels like a very plain character that me personally I do not like enjoy reading about. Just as I wouldn't really enjoy reading about a main male character who despises women and that whole other cliche. And I went into reading this book completely blind. I just got it and I just started reading it. I knew nothing about it and I did not read the description. Well, I think I checked the trigger warnings first. Yeah, I did. But yeah, I just want to make sure that it is happily ever after and the content warning aren't bad for me. And yeah, I read like one line or two lines. I did not read the entire summary in the description though. However, reading this book made me realize that I don't like some of the old things that I have liked before. For example, and I don't really mean for example, mainly the friends with benefits thing. I used to love reading that for a couple of years. So it was one of the tropes that I did look for in books. And I was really infatuated with the whole like pushing feelings away until they drown you thing, which is, again, a trope used in this book. I would say it is the second main trope, the first one being, Riley's accident. And I did not like it, unfortunately. Or, well, happily, however you look at it. And in the book, we get to see Riley going through the 7 stages of grief that he goes through and pushing everyone away and having really amazing friends who are his teammates as well. There are group chats that the guys talk in, which is funny, but in a way you can tell that it was absolutely written by a woman, just like as you could tell if a woman was written by a man. And you do get to see the girls' friendships with the wags of said uh, hockey friend group. There are 3 other women in this book who are, well, Lexi's best friends, and none of them really captured anything deep for me to want to read their books, but they had a refreshing friendship, which was amazing. Both Lexi and Riley's friend group. And, Riley, something that, you will find in the trigger warnings and the sensitive scenes is that Riley is one of those quiet, nerdy guys who is that way, especially because he has another side. And that side is not dark at all, which is good because I would have stopped reading it. However, I did lose interest, I think like 80% in the book. There was 200 pages left, I think. And I skipped the 200 pages and just read the last 2 chapters after reading the first 80%. Another very good different thing about Riley is his amazing relationship with his family, especially with his father. And his father actually also lost his leg at his job. And the way that Riley's parents love him is really beautiful. I think we don't see many lead male characters having a good relationship with their father and their family in general, but especially their father. You see a lot of daddy issues in so many romance books, and it is almost always the guys first. However, this time, the one with daddy issues is Alexi, which you can see throughout the entire book. She does not let you forget that she's independent. And in one of the scenes, of course, she opens up to Riley and, well, how she was raised by women. And she is a very accomplished woman, Lexi, which is very good. She's educated and she has career, so many accomplishments in her career. But I think she's one of those people that is so addicted to work, mainly because she didn't have much else in her life, which kind of makes me feel sad for her. You know, she doesn't have, although, well, she is against marriage and um, being in a relationship, well, despite the outcome of the book, she still feels her behavior and her decision to be happily single, quote unquote, is really a, her guard up. It's really a mechanism to protect herself. It's I never once felt like she genuinely meant that. It was mostly like she was trained to behave that way, and she tried, and the outcome wasn't good. So, she put the whole thing in a cage, which, I know it's easier said than done, but it doesn't make sense. For example, if you eat a meal at a restaurant and it's bad, you don't say that the meal is bad. You say it was bad at that restaurant. For example, if your favorite fruit is lobster and you eat it and get sick, you would actually stop ordering from that restaurant, but that wouldn't really stop you from eating it somewhere else. And although I did like the relationship between Riley and Lexi at the beginning, in the middle, I felt repetitive, especially with the no feelings involved. It kind of pushed me away, which is why I think I stopped reading every single word for the last 200 page. But in general, it was a pretty good read, and I would recommend it. But I wouldn't recommend it for it to be the very first book, hockey romance book that you read, because it kind of sets the standard a little too high for Riley and a little low for Lexi. I mean, I have seen better female characters in other hockey books, which you can check out in other episodes. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you around soon. Take care and enjoy being soft. You don't have to be strong all the time. Laters.